Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Hello, it is Tuesday, March 7th, the first Tuesday in March, and you've reached Black Authors Matter TV. I hope you all have had a good week so far. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And Rhonda, you look like are you going somewhere or you just getting back?
No, I just tried to be cute today.
Oh, okay, well, that's allowed.
Sometimes I feel like such a bum when I come on the show. I said I'm going to try to at least, look decent.
Oh, well, you always look good.
So, thank you.
Anyway, we have a great show for you tonight, and I have a few announcements. Our first guest is not in the waiting room.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. That happened 2 weeks in a row, and I haven't. They didn't turn their form in. I might go off camera for a minute, just to see if they will respond to a direct message.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say if you need me to call them, but I don't know if I have that number though.
Yeah, they didn't send.
Okay.
The form in, but I've been communicating with them for weeks, months actually. So it's supposed to be Brownstone Book Club, and it's supposed to be a representative from Brownstone Book Club. But until they come on, or until they sign on, I do want to just give a few announcements. Did you have anything that you wanted to make them aware of, Rhonda, our audience?
Well, I did announce that I'm going to be doing a luxury writers retreat. I'll be doing it at the beginning of the fall, so more information will be following on that. And I'm going to be at the Small Business Expo here in DC on March 15th, which is next Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Who's sponsoring it?
No, well, it's an actual company called the Small Business Expo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're
like Black Expo used to be.
Yeah. Well, this is the Small Business Expo. So I'll be doing that. And then I have a few other appearances that I'll be making over the next couple of months. So just stay tuned to the Meet the World Image Solutions Facebook page. And I'll have information on all of my appearances over the next couple of months.
Okay. And we have 2 books we're giving away tonight. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
But I did want to announce, some of you all may know Maxine Thompson.
Yes.
And Maxine was not only an author, but she was an agent as well. And she was a literary representative for a lot of authors. And she passed away recently. I don't know the date, but it was very recent.
Yeah, it was just a couple of days ago, I believe.
Yeah, it was very recent. So we send out condolences to her family and to her friends and supporters, and just everybody in the literary community that's been around for a while knew Maxine, or that she was. In fact, when Brian asked me, he's our second guest for the second segment, Brian W. Smith. Years ago, he asked me, did I know an agent I could refer him to when he was wanting to break into the major publishing, and I referred him to Maxine, and she got him a book deal like quickly.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So, and I don't do that often, but I know Brian was and is a hustler, so I knew he was going to work, and he wasn't going to be one of the authors that just sit around and wait for somebody to do things. So, we send the condolences out to Maxine's family. And also, we have our book club kickback next Tuesday.
It comes so fast. I have to finish reading the book.
Yeah, here's the book. This is the back of the book. The House of Eve by Sadiqa Johnson. So we have about 10 book clubs that'll be participating in the discussion. I haven't started reading yet. I'm always reading a book. So I was hoping I would be done with the book that I'm reading. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. That's the book I'm reading. She was on the show a couple of months ago. And I'm not going to be able to finish it because I definitely have to finish this one before the show. So I'm going to have to switch books and then switch back. But
anyway, show us the cover one more time, Gwen.
The House of Eve.
That's a big book too.
Yeah, well, it's not quite 400 pages. Not quite. So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
And it was Reese Witherspoon's book club picked it. So that's
amazing.
Very good for her, for Sadiqa. And also it made the New York Times bestseller list 2 weeks in a row. I don't know about the third week, but it made it 2 weeks in a row. That's a major accomplishment because you're competing with the top selling books out there.
Well, just for the people who are Audible readers, such as myself, because I can't sit down long enough to physically read a book anymore, it is 10.5 hours if you decide to listen to it on Audible.
The House of Eve?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Lydia says she needs to get started with her reading. And Stephanie says she's reading Before I Let Go also. And I'm about halfway in. So it is a good book. I just didn't get to finish it before, and I need to definitely start reading The House of Eve. So
I don't think I'm crazy. I'm about to cover my camera because I just feel like I'm fuzzy. Let me see.
Oh, okay. You're gonna clean it off.
Yeah. Oh, that's better.
It is better.
Yeah.
I might need to do mine, but I don't think I'm fuzzy. What I have sometimes on my green screen when it moves, it does this little thing like at the top of the screen. So anyway, so I have some announcements. The National Black Book Festival author registration is open and the early bird ends March 31st. So if you want to get the best rate and the best terms, if you sign up as an author vendor or a small business vendor or publisher or however you sign up, the best rate is before March 31st. So, and the best terms.
And this is going to be a good year. I mean, we say that every year, but this is going to be a good year.
We do, and it is. So right now we have featured authors Kwame Alexander confirmed, and we're going to be having the actress and author Daphne Maxwell Reid is going to be at the festival this year. She did the virtual, but she's going to be actually here this year in Houston. So we just confirmed that a couple of days ago. So she is best known for being Aunt Viv on the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yes, not Bel-Air, but the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
The original Fresh Prince with Will Smith. So she is confirmed that she'll be here, and she has 3 books, I think. So she's going to be coming, and we're working on some other featured authors. So we're continuing. We're waiting to hear from a few people. So also our Black Authors Matter TV Awards. The award show will be covering the interviews done from March 8th of last year to tonight. So all the people who were interviewed for the past 12 months, ending with tonight, will be included in the nominations process. And so the voting for the nomination starts March 21st and ends April 1st. So that's the window where you can vote for your favorites. And then the top 5 vote getters will be the finalists. And
I've got to tell you, I love the awards because all of the authors take it so seriously, and they're so excited when they win.
They're excited when they make the finals.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think the great thing about it is it's all about their supporters. So it really shows who their support systems are. And their fans and their supporters turn out for them. And I think that's the most beautiful part about this whole thing.
It is, and they are really excited and surprised genuinely
Yes.
when they win. And then the way that we have it set up is like the Grammys or the Academy Awards, where you announce the finalists and then the envelope gets opened. And so this, we try to make it fun and exciting, but it's a way to honor the authors and the other people who've been on the show.
Absolutely.
So, in all the different categories. And so the voting for that will open on the 21st of March. But tonight is the last show that's included for the 2023 awards. So everything after tonight will be included for the 2024 awards. And the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards, that process has started as well. We rebranded our Children's Book Awards. And so everything is Black Authors Matter. And if you go to Black Authors Matter bookawards.com, it explains the process, how you submit your book. And that process is through the first week of June. I can't recall the exact date, but you can submit your books up until that time. And that's also a process. With that, we have a panel of judges. So for that process, there's an evaluation that goes on.
And Gwen, does the book have to have been published in 2022?
The book has to be published in either 2022 or 2023. So if it's published this year, anytime up to the closing, anything that comes out this year is included, and anything in 2022. So every year the window moves. Last year it was books that were in 2021 and 2022. So this year is 2022 and 2023. Next year it'll be 2023 and 2024, because we do want new books that have just recently been published as part of the process for the awards. So
yes, and I have seen some great children's books over this past few months, and I know that there are some people out there who need to compete, and they're probably going to do well in the competition, because like I said, the illustrations have been beautiful, the messages have been beautiful. So I hope every children's author out there decides to participate.
Yes, there's just a lot of good work being done overall in the African American literature space. And but the recognition is limited. And so we want to elevate the recognition. And that's what we do with this show and with our awards process, and also with the book festival. So people can get their names out there, meet their reading public, meet other people in the industry, so they know they're not alone. Sometimes being an author can be a lonely sojourn, as they call it.
Absolutely,
And
it is.
It's helpful to commune with other people.
Now I have another question. Does the contestant, so to speak, do they have to have been a past guest on the show, or do they have to be registered for the National Black Book Festival in order to submit?
For the children's book?
Right.
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
It can be any children's author who's African American, or their book has an African American theme. So we have, we advertise the awards and the show on Facebook, and sometimes we get knuckleheads that'll say stupid stuff, and I'm, like,
why can't white authors
compete?
why
can't, or that's racist, or what other lame brain things do they say? They say stupid stuff. I don't even respond to them. I just ban them. Because if you're that much of an idiot, then you really don't need to be communicating with other people on our page. If you're offended by it, I definitely don't want you to even have it come through your news feed.
Right.
And it's supposed to, we select when we do it as an ad, you can select your audience. And we select fans of the page and their friends. So we're not trying to cast a wide net and offend somebody who might not, be like-minded or who just don't support.
Well, when you stand for something, you have to not be afraid of hurting somebody's feelings.
Well, I mean, how can somebody be hurt by somebody else's book event or book? That's just people are stupid. So I don't engage them, and I don't say anything to them. I just ban them immediately. So when you ban somebody, and I looked it up, when you ban somebody, they can still see your stuff, but they can't comment, they can't share, they can't like, they can't do anything. They can't engage with you. So that's what we do here. So let's see what we have from some of the comments. Let's see who some of the people that are on tonight. Our first guest was supposed to be Brownstone Book Club. And if any of you all out there know the Brownstone Book Club people, their time is almost expired. But they have been, I've been DMing them for months, and where are they? So anyway, they were supposed to be on. Let me go off camera 1 minute. I'm gonna see if I can, and Rhonda, you can fill in for 1 second.
Okay. Well, while Gwen is going off camera, so I just realized, for those of you who are not following my personal page, that next year in 2024 will be the 20th anniversary of my first book, Cheating in the Next Room. This was my very first publication. It was the book that got me into the literary industry. So I'm planning on doing basically a 1-year celebration next year, celebrating my entrance into the literary community. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to re-release the book. I'm just going to go through and maybe update the characters a little bit, because when I wrote this book, cell phones weren't really around. They were really just getting there. Facebook and Instagram and things like that, they weren't around. So I'm going to go ahead and update the characters and bring them into the new millennium. And also, I went back and I looked at some old comments from people who had read the story. And I'm going to take some of that feedback into consideration too. So that's going to be a fun book to revisit. I really enjoyed those characters. I actually even made a stage play with it. And I actually produced that stage play twice, back in 2018 and 2019. So that was also a fun process. Shouts out to all of the actors who were a part of that, and the directors and the stage managers and everybody else who helped to make that show a success. That was really fun. So yeah, like I said, just stay tuned. Lots of great things coming out. I'm looking forward to going back to Houston in October for the National Black Book Festival. We had a great time last year, and I'm looking forward to having an even better time this year. I know last year we probably can't top Omarion coming. I know you Omarion fans came out because you really wanted to see him, and we appreciated that. But you stayed, and we love that. Hey, Miss Deborah. Oh, thank you. Deborah was actually one of the authors in my anthology, A New Renaissance, that I released in February 2022. And so I loved her story. It was the cutest story about 3 women trying to make it to a concert and all of the crazy things that happened to them along the way. So I really enjoyed her story, and I'm glad to see that she's back on. And I was actually glad to see her at the National Black Book Festival last year. She was doing her thing out there. And welcome back, Gwen.
Okay, well, I did find a phone number and I texted. The time is almost up anyway. So I'm going to do the book giveaway.
Yeah, let's do the book giveaway.
We're going to bring Brian on. So Anyway, we have 2 books to give away. One, some of you may have heard about this book. It's called The Other Black Girl. It was a bestseller when it was new, like a year and a half ago or so. And the trivia question for this, to win this, and this is the actual book, it's a hardcover. So the main character, Hazel, it's an actual book and not an advanced reading copy. That's what I mean. So the main character, Hazel, works in New York City, in what industry? So whoever gets the answer to that question will win the book. And this next one is an advanced reading copy. So this one's called Wade in the Water. It is by Inyani Nkrumah. And this book came out in January, so it's a new book, but this is the advanced reading copy for it. The author has a PhD from what Ivy League university? So if you get the answer to that, you win the book.
All right, both questions are in the chat and we are waiting for your answers.
Okay, and so because I think I got all my notes, my announcements. So because Brian has logged in early, we're going to go ahead and bring him on because he has a lot of information that he can share.
He always does. The last time he came on the show, we could have given him a whole hour.
We could have. So we're going to go ahead and bring on Brian W. Smith. And Brian has a new book out. So he's going to tell us about that. And he's always got some ventures going on. He's very busy. And he travels a lot with his son. He shows pictures of his I think he just has one granddaughter, but he shows pictures of her. And so,
well, you know, he's getting up in age where he could have a grandchild.
Yeah. I'm going to tell him you said when he comes on. So he may have just logged on because it's ahead of his time. So he may not be sitting there waiting. So he might have left the room because it's actually a little bit early. So,
yeah.
Brian, we let you on early.
There he is.
We had some extra time. So we decided to go ahead and admit you early. And so I hope you're ready, but you need to unmute your mic so we can hear you.
Thank you for letting me in. I'm always ready. Y'all got me as a seat filler, huh? Okay.
No, never.
That's a what?
A seat
What did
filler.
he say?
He said we have him as a seat filler.
No, you're not a seat filler because this is your seat. Your seat was already assigned.
Okay.
So how can you be a seat filler?
Well, I'm taking somebody else's place right now, right?
No, we just extended the time for your interview. You have to look at it in a positive way.
I like that. I like that. Rhonda, that's a veteran right there. Gwen been spinning it and tweaking it for decades now.
This is true. True. So Brian, how are you?
I'm fine. How y'all doing?
Wonderful.
We are great. We are great. And
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you were on, I believe, the first year that we had the show in 2020. So
yeah, it's been a couple of years now. I see y'all doing y'all thing.
Yeah, we have been consistently out there and continuing to bring the audience and book lovers, you know, the latest things, the movers and shakers, the people who are doing things and continuing to do things. And the innovators, you know, there's a lot going on in literature that doesn't really get that much exposure, but there are a lot of people doing some very creative things, and they need exposure. So that's our job.
Okay. Yeah, now's the time to do it. I mean, the world's opening up to us like never before, you know?
That's true. And a lot of it is because of our creatives, you know, our so much creativity.
The world is getting smaller because of technology.
It's definitely getting smaller. because, you know, when I first started in the book industry, it was basically just, it was, the internet was just kicking off, but it wasn't ubiquitous like it is now. And social media didn't exist. So, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, there's no more 6 degrees of separation. Everyone's a click away.
Right. Or if you're on social media, you got mutual friends. If you're in this space, you mutual friends with a lot of people. I think me and Rhonda have 1,500 mutual friends.
That's crazy.
Last time I looked, it was about 1,500.
That's about right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. So, Brian, I just want to tell people now. I wanted to know if you knew that Maxine Thompson had passed. Did you hear that news?
No, I did not know.
Oh no.
No, I didn't. When did she pass?
That was just recent. A few days ago. Yeah. It was
a couple of days ago.
Wow. Maxine was my first agent.
That's what I announced it at the beginning of the show. And I said that you had asked me, could I refer an agent? And I don't think I've ever referred an agent to anybody else.
Yeah.
But I told people, I know Brian's a hustler. He's not going to be sitting on his hands waiting for somebody to do stuff for him.
No, I mean, she and I parted ways in that space a long time ago. I have other agents now, but she and I were still cool. There was no hard feelings. And wow, I'm at a loss for words. I did not know. I'm always ripping and running. I'll dip into social media, do a little something, and then I'm gone for 48 hours. I did not know. And the last time I talked to Maxine, she and I had an extensive conversation. Her husband was dealing with dementia, Alzheimer's, something like that. And wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I will be praying for her and her family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was all the people that we know were sharing it. If you didn't log on to social media, that's why I thought you knew, because
no, I haven't.
Everybody in our space is
I haven't read. I just got over. They call it a sinus infection. It felt like the flu, but
oh, okay.
Yes, I've been pretty much out of it for the last 6 days. But
I hope you're feeling better.
I am on that last. I'm on that last day of steroid pills and the antibiotics that they give you to clear you up. Like, it's the last day of those pills, so I feel a lot better. But I was out. I was out for I've had COVID before. It didn't feel that bad, but it was a close second. That's how bad I was feeling. So I didn't know. You said this happened within the last 48 hours.
Wow. I think it was either Saturday or Sunday, either one of those days that it happened. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I didn't want to put you on the spot. I assumed that you knew. So
no, I didn't.
Yeah. Well, Maxine touched a lot of people in a positive way. I never heard anybody say anything negative about Maxine.
Maxine was good people.
She was good people. So just give us a lay of the land on your storied career. I met you, it's been I think you may have come to the very first book festival that we did.
You were in the
George R. Brown, were you at that one?
You were connected with the Houston
the Black Expo.
Black Expo, right.
Okay, so yeah, you were at the beginning and selling a ton of books. I don't know if you had more than 1 or 2 titles, but you were selling.
I had about 2, 3 books at the time, but yeah.
But you were hustling and selling your books.
And how many books do you have now?
I just finished today my 39th book, but it's not a novel. It's I wrote my first self-help motivational book, and
so that's the Adapt and Overcome.
Adapt and Overcome, and it's called Adapt and Overcome: Life Lessons I've Learned on my journey from Holly Grove to Hollywood.
Okay, that's a good title and a good subtitle.
Yeah. So and Rhonda knows. I mean, that Adapt and Overcome, you hear that every day in the military. You know what I'm saying? So that's where the term came from for me. Just years of being in the Army. I probably was told that in 1987 in basic training, but it's applicable today. It's it really is those 2 words, those 3 words. To me, they sum up how you need to live life, because nothing's ever going to be perfect.
You're right. And you have to be willing to be flexible. Now,
Yeah.
I wasn't in the military, but I can tell you what, though, that's a good mantra for people who say they want to be in business or be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
If you can't adapt and overcome, you are going to go under. That's just,
Under, you better learn how to pivot.
you may as well
You
not
have to
even
learn how
get
to pivot.
started. Because you have to be able to do it, and without fear and without hesitation. You have to be.
Yeah, I have a chapter in this book, one of the life lessons. I call it pray it with your chest. You gotta pray it with your chest. Like I have cocky faith. I'm cocky with my faith. You know, I think in the book I describe, I'm like a rapper who thinks he's the best. I'm cocky with my faith. Like there is nothing I can't do. There's nothing that if it's in the card for me, God will not provide. He's gonna open the way. So I just think that, you know, when you approach life, you gotta, you know, they say it with your chest. You gotta pray it with your chest. You gotta be bold about it.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because it takes the same amount of energy to be bold as it does to be timid. You know, to think small.
Yeah, man.
To think, you can think small or you can think big, and
Hey,
so
yeah.
it takes the same amount of energy. And those small thoughts, to me, when you think of small thought, you actually end up talking yourself out of it. Whatever the small, thinking a big thought, you can really, even if you have to make an adjustment back a little, but you know, they're saying about if you shoot for the moon, you reach the stars or whatever. You have to shoot for something.
Yeah, you gotta swing for the fence. You can't be scared.
No, you can't be scared.
And in this business, you know, I tell young authors, authors are funny. You know, we started this conversation talking about that that whole mentorship thing, and I am the mentor to about a dozen authors I ain't never met before in my life. They just be hitting me up, right, and asking for advice. And I, you know, I've never been stingy with advice. You provide that example, Gwen. I mean, you didn't have to introduce me to Maxine all those years ago. And I'm telling you, a lot of people in this industry are stingy with advice.
Nobody wants anybody to get further than them, so they're just afraid to tell them just a little bit.
Yeah, I am a mentor to a lot of people, a lot of young authors, and you know, I always tell them, slow feet don't eat. You better get up and start running, because as Gwen has seen, you end up at an event next to me. I'm gonna send you home with a box full of books, because I'm getting rid of mine. If they got $20, I'm gonna get it from them before
because you sitting next to me when you selling a book, I'm gonna be right next to you. Get mine too. It's right here.
Well, in saying that, I just did a workshop at church, at my church Saturday for first time authors. And, you know, our church, they allow people to share information. So it was free, and there were about 30 people who attended. And I just gave them some practical information that they needed, but I broke it down. I did something that I've never done before when I do them. I gave them the 6 most common genres that first time authors select. And then I broke it down into, I had them move around in the room based on the category. And then I had already done a list of, this is what you need to do if you're going to write a biography, if you're going to write a children's book, if you're going to do fiction or motivational, or what were the other 2? Oh, religious faith, because it was church-based. And what was the other one? I can't remember the other one. But anyway, I had given them just an outline. Some of the things were specific to genre, but then there's a whole nother set of things that's not specific. Is every author has to do it. And so they really, it was interesting. I hadn't done one in a while. And but I like the hopeful look of anticipation on the face of a person who wants to write a book and they haven't written it yet, but they're ready, you know, they're ready to go. And they just need to push in the right direction, or being pointed in the right direction. And so yeah, you have to be willing to share information with other people. And because there's a lot of people who are not willing to do that. But you also, here's something else. When you have information and when someone shares their information with you, you have to be discerning to give it to the right person. You can't just give their information to everybody because some people aren't serious. And so
no, they're not.
I try to just be very careful. My integrity really matters to me. And I don't want to lose my contacts because somebody else acting fool,
That's the truth. I mean, when these young authors reach out to me, first thing I ask them, even if it's in a DM, I value my time. You know what I'm saying? And I don't suffer fools and I don't suffer lazy people. So I ask them, are you interested or are you committed? Before we do anything, I need to know,
There's a big difference.
Are you committed? Because if you're just interested, this conversation will probably be an exercise in futility. But if you're committed, you're going to actually take this stuff and run with it.
Right.
So let me know where your head is before I carve 30 minutes of my time so that you can forget what I said 30 minutes later. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, don't play with my time because I don't play with other people's time.
Right. I don't either. Now you give them 30 minutes. God bless you, because I don't do that. Not when they do
if they're committed,
okay.
and I have the time, I'll talk to them. I'll
Okay.
talk to them. Yeah, I'll talk to them. But I'm also that person, Gwen and Rhonda, I will tell them if I feel, what I've learned over the years is that there's a very fine line between people wanting advice about a topic they don't know and people wanting to use you because they're too lazy to do the research.
And that has always been my problem. So I don't, a lot of times people will DM me and ask for information, and I find that they're basically trying to use me as their Google because they don't want to look it up themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I don't mind helping people at all. I love giving free information. But if I find that you're just trying to use me, then my answers start getting shorter and shorter with you.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Rhonda. And it don't take long to figure that out. It doesn't take long to figure that out. And these days, from when we first started, it's just so much easier. Everything is a Google's click away. Like, we had to figure this stuff out, man. And,
right.
All y'all gotta do is go on Google and like it's right there.
Yeah, or YouTube.
Or YouTube, right?
So we didn't have these tools.
Yeah, YouTube University is great. And sometimes I don't want to ask people. I would rather go on YouTube and watch a few videos, take some notes and try to figure it out, or take a course. There are people out here offering courses for pennies because they're just trying to get their information out there, but people don't want to spend the money on that because they'd rather try to pick somebody's brain for free, which is why I should have worn my my hoodie tonight. I have my hoodie that says, "Pick brains, don't pay bills." Because I got tired of people always trying to pick my brain for free, and they're building their empire, and I'm sitting here broke because I gave you all my information for free.
Well, the problem with a lot of young authors, and this isn't young author bashing. If there's young authors watching this, there's a message in all that we're saying. At least I'm trying to convey one. I find that a lot of people are more interested in all of the pomp and circumstance that surrounds being an author.
Yes.
So they like the idea of having book signings and book release parties and foolishness like that, stuff that don't have any ROI. The book signing is fine, that's a necessity, but the book release parties, rather than invest in learning the craft or taking some classes on publishing, self-publishing, whatever the case may be, they're holding that money so they can throw this big elaborate book release party. That $1,000 you could have spent on going to the National Black Book Festival, you know what I'm saying? And get the table.
Yeah, because we have lots of free seminars on stuff and people they can meet. But
so I would say to young authors watching this, If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And that includes the sacred cow called the book release party. I am not a fan of book release party.
I'm about to say, you don't even do book release parties, do you, Brian?
No,
No,
I mean,
he does a book club.
yeah, what I do is,
his book,
yeah, what I thank God, so for instance, here in Dallas, so what they'll do is maybe 6 or 8 book clubs will get together.
Right.
And if I have a book release, and they'll host it. Right. So we'll step into, a banquet room of a restaurant. There'll be over 100 people in there for the release. That's not a book release party. It's a book release. And we're actually having one big old book club meeting, really. You know what I'm saying? But the book really, no, the book party, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And a lot of times, I mean, you just do the math. That's when that MBA kicks in, Ron. I came into this business, a businessman who happens to write, not a writer who owns a business. So everything that I did, I looked at it from that perspective, and I just crunched the numbers. Okay, we're going to spend $800 to $1,000 getting, I don't know, 200 books. So we're already 800 in the hole. Now we got to spend another 500 to rent this facility for 2 hours. Now we got to get some food. Before you know it, and Black folk gonna get outfit to go to the party. So
it's gonna be white.
It's gonna be a white party.
Yes.
So before you know it, you look up, and the author, if they really pay attention, you're negative 1,000 in the hole, and you ain't moved. You haven't sold one book. So you do the math. You're selling a book at $10 a pop. You need to sell 100 books just to break even. And guess what? Only 50 people are going to show up at your book release party, and only 25 of them going to buy a book. The other just
and I was just going to say that if you need to sell 100 books, you need to have at least 300 people at your party.
Yeah, right. You need
50 going to show up. 25 not going to buy. They just coming to take pictures. And the other 25 are going to buy a book that they ain't, and half of that 25 ain't going to read the book and tell somebody else. You just spent $1,000, and you negative in the hole before your book is really, officially released to the world. So I am anti-book release party. Hold your book release party. I tell young authors all the time, I want you to think about, and you take me, I'm not on the level of a Kim Roby or a Victoria Murray or Rashonda or the late Eric Jerome Dickey, and none of these people. I do well, but I haven't done as well as them. But you know what they all have in common? They don't do book release parties. So if you have seasoned veterans, at this point, I throw myself in that category too, and we don't see the benefit of book release parties, why are you doing them?
Well, the question I asked, the first question I asked on Saturday was, why do you want to write a book? And I said, if the answer is to make untold riches, you need to just quit now, because that is not going to happen. So you need to have some other reason, some other compelling reason. And so that puts them in another thought process about even getting started. Because if you're not willing to, if your goal is not to share information, and I'm for making money, because I'm a business person too. That's what that's my background. But in the course of sharing the information, you can make money, but you have to think about what you're putting out. It's a product, just like anything else. And I also told them that they are basically going to become a retailer. So they have to look at, what are you paying for your book versus what you're selling it for? Because you are going to become a book retailer for yourself as a self-published author. So
yeah, I mean, that $1,000 scenario that I gave, I recommend you take that, chop it in 3, go to three events. With that $1,000, you can hit 3 book events. At the end of the day, just like you talked about when we first met, Gwen, I thank the Lord first and foremost for my longevity. But I also believe that he gave me the foresight to know that this is about retail sales, right? And you need to get your product into the hands of customers.
Right.
I would much rather spend $1,000 going to 3 different events and putting my book in the hands of people that I don't know who are going to take it back to their community and spread the word, whether they're from Atlanta, Dallas, New Orleans, wherever they're from. They're going to take that book back and the word of mouth will start to roll across the nation. I'd rather do that than spend $1,000 on a party and invite 100 of my friends.
Well, one thing I did want to touch on, Brian, while we still have time, is that you talk a lot about the business of writing, which is great. We need that, but I also want people to know that you take the art of writing very seriously as well, because I believe that, and then, like you said earlier, this is not a hit against new authors, but often people want to write a book because they hear it's a good way to make passive income. It's a good way to make some money. You can make money while you sleep. And they don't always put the time into writing the book well because they want to hurry and get the book out there. I remember asking a question one time and I said, what is your biggest struggle about writing? Or what is your biggest challenge about writing? And most of the people answered and said, marketing my book, getting my book out there. And I'm like, no, I'm not asking you about marketing. I'm asking you about writing. But sometimes people try to skip that step.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, I'm a college professor. When I'm not writing books, I teach creative writing at a couple of colleges, and I lecture a lot. This time last month, I was at Jackson State University lecturing. So I travel HBCUs, and I usually speak to the English students, et cetera. So I teach English and creative writing. So I take the craft very seriously. And, you know, if you don't spend that $1,000 going to 3 different events that we spoke of with that book release party, take that money and invest in a creative writing class or 2 at your local community college. Learn the craft of writing. At the end of the day, I would like to think that that I write good books. You know, the hell with where you see me or who you see me talking to or how I sell a book at an event. I don't care what kind of cologne you wearing. I don't care how you could be Idris Elba. They may come out and buy that book initially because you're Idris Elba, but by that 3rd book, if it's concluded that you just look good and you can't write, they're gonna stop buying your books. So if you want to have, I've been doing this for 18 years. I take studying the craft of writing seriously. So that would be my advice. Don't waste money on things that don't have a return on investment. You spend your money on things that are going to help you become a better writer, which will in turn make you sell more books, which will in turn make developing a brand easy. I thank God that I'm up to the point now that after 18 years, I sell on average 300 books just in pre-orders before the book is even released. So the book pays for itself months before the book is even released.
Yeah,
that
and
that comes from
your book
consistency.
release photos where you are taking pictures of your stuff in the envelope on your way to the post office, mailing the pre-order.
Yeah.
So I see those photos.
Yeah, but that comes in. I'm at a book at that event in Houston. When you and I first met, at this point, my goodness, it has to be close to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Up in there somewhere. I made a book club. I'm gonna show you how this works. I'm living proof of it. That day, I met a book club called Sugar and Spice.
Yes.
Okay.
I think they're out of New York, if I'm not mistaken. They're out the New York area somewhere. And those people have bought my books since. We're in 2023.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I can't remember the last time I met with them, but it was definitely years after I first met them at your event. So if you put out a product that people find intriguing, and I also think it's important also to authors, I think there's too much bouncing around. I think it's important to establish a brand. People buy brands.
They do.
You know, you want to be to the point. To me, the ultimate compliment that an author can receive is when someone says, hey, you see the new Brian W. Smith book out? Yes. What's it about? I don't know, but I'm gonna still buy it because I like all his books. That's it. That's when you know that your brand is set. When people start buying your books based off of your name and not the actual book, then you're making some progress. And that takes time and consistency.
Right, it does. It's not, and I also tell aspiring authors, your first book is not going to be the thing that makes you so-called famous or whatever. It takes years. It's a building process. It takes many books. Unless you're already a celebrity, which means people are only, like you were talking about it yourself, they're only buying your book because you're a celebrity, not because, and they might not even read the book. They're only buying it because you're a celebrity. But when you are a writer and you are putting out books on a regular basis, people will start buying them because of your reputation in the craft that you
can establish it. You can establish both a good and bad reputation.
Yes, you can, because
that's why it's important to take the craft seriously.
Yes, because if I read a book and the book is a bad book, and by bad book I mean just horrible writing, and it doesn't matter if it's by a big publisher or self-published. Some of these big published books are not good. They're hyped.
Yeah, they have the marketing dollars behind them. Yeah,
it's like, what in the world is this? It doesn't make sense. Too many characters. It doesn't hold your interest. It just doesn't make no thing is a bad book. Then I'm not going to invest any more money in, because I read a lot of books. I'm always reading a book. So, and I buy books from authors. A lot of it's because of the show. I hear about new books. I buy them. Sometimes I don't get to read them, but I still get to promote them on the show. But if I read a book and it's not well written,
it's important. I can't state how important it is to take classes. You know, for young writers out there, and even seasoned authors for that matter.
Because we get caught with bad habits.
Right. You learn stuff like show don't tell. You know, the first class I teach every semester is I call it the ingredients in the gumbo. You know, every novel needs to have 3 elements. It needs to have a dilemma, it needs to have action, and it needs to have a ticking clock. That dilemma needs to be something that people can relate to, and something that is a legitimate dilemma in many people's lives, regardless of race, creed, or color. And that dilemma, if written correctly, will provoke action by your characters. And most importantly, you need to have a deadline that the characters need to accomplish their goals if you want to keep people reading till the end. Dilemma, action, and a ticking clock. Those are 3 elements that needs to be in every book. And if you look at any book, whether it be from Harry Potter to Stephen King's Misery to Brian W. Smith's Paper Bag, whatever the case may be, there needs to be a ticking clock at the end, because it's the same concept that movie folks do when they have the bomb ticking, and you see the bomb ticking, and you want to know if the detectives are going to find the bomb before it blows up the building. They'll literally show you the ticking clock on there. You'll see the numbers counting down, right?
Right.
That's the whole ticking clock concept, and we need to do that with our books. And what I find is that a lot of young authors are just writing. There's no method to their madness. They're just writing. And before you know it, you look up, they at the 60,000 word mark. You still got 30,000 words left to go in the book.
And they don't know where they're going with the story.
And the reader don't know where they're going either. Before you know it, and another thing I tell my students, young authors, and when I'm teaching, look, we like books. You know, we're reading nerds, if that's what you want to call us. However, in 2023, reading is probably number 10 on the entertainment totem pole. People have everything from YouTube to Facebook to Hulu to Netflix to, I mean, you name it, to just taking a nap. They have a lot of other options before they decide to pick up a book. It is our job to catch them in that opening chapter with a dilemma, have it action-packed, and have a ticking clock.
Yeah. Now I'm going to add to that, Brian. They need compelling characters.
Yeah, that goes without saying, because
well, not
characters that do the
necessarily,
action.
because some people, their characters are not compelling. They're not interesting. You don't like them.
But this is the kind of stuff and this is one of the things why I encourage people, take some creative writing classes.
Yes.
Right.
You know, every semester for 3 months, I'm sitting here telling people, teaching them how to write a scene, you know, how to use the 5 senses to write a scene, how to create compelling characters. All this stuff is discussed in creative writing classes. That is what you get. And you look, I don't know any doctor, any surgeon that hopped in the surgical room without going to med school. Right? No mechanic gets underneath anybody's car without going to mechanic school. Hell, even Whitney Houston, one of the best singers ever, had a voice coach.
Yep.
So why do you think you can write a book and not need to study the craft of writing books?
Right. Well, at the very least, and this is what I told all the people on Saturday, get a book from a bookstore or library in the genre you want to write in.
Yeah.
And read it from cover to cover, because some people say they want to write a book, but they don't even really read books. They don't read books in their genre, so they don't even know what the elements are. That's the minimum you need to do.
You gotta read. I mean, how are you going to be able to identify good writing if you never read it?
Right, exactly. And I still, some people, books that I read now, I'll look at the way they turn a phrase or the way they built the story. And, you know, I'm able to utilize it, not to copy it, but just as a motivation for.
Let me tell you what I do when I read.
The most compelling story.
I have a thing on my phone, the notes thing on my phone. Okay. I probably read, no exaggeration, even with all I do, if I'm not reading a book, I got an audio book in my ear. So I probably read 15, 20 books a year. I have a page on my notes section, ladies, and it is called New Words. Every time I read somebody's book, I come across, I got a whole section on my thing. It's called New Words.
Okay.
And I just like write that. I just write, I'll be reading somebody's book. So I'm gonna give you an example. About a year ago, I just decided to read To Kill a Mockingbird again. Right? Okay. So I'm reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and don't laugh at me, but I had never heard of I ran across the word, I even have a hard time pronouncing it, apothecary.
Oh yeah, it's like a drugstore.
I never knew that.
Okay.
I never knew that was a druggist. That's a pharmacist, right?
Yes.
Right.
And I'm just sitting up here like, new word, right? I don't know when I'm going to use it, but I got it. But
well, you know what's funny, Brian, is I was reading one of Eric Jerome Dickey's books, and he used the word peccadillo, and I'll never forget that. So now I know what a peccadillo is,
right? Which
is just a little mistake,
right? Right.
Or sometimes it can be like a habit, like quirks, a person who has little quirks,
and in this case it was, and the way he used it was a little mistakes, because it was a scene where a woman was in the hospital and her friend yelled to all of the doctors that there better not be any peccadillos that are committed while you have my friend on your operating table. It was something like that, and I just laughed, and I always remembered the word because of that.
That is what reading does. It makes you. I tell anyone who will listen. I tell my students. I told my kids. It's really very simple. The more you read, the better you speak.
Yes.
The better you speak, the better you write, because we tend to write the way we speak. So theoretically speaking, the more you read, the better you speak, and the better you speak, the better you will write.
That's true. Well, Brian, we could have you on for an hour, and like I said, we we wanted the extra
I
time.
know we just sit up there, we start
could've
chopping
filled
up.
it
We
with
ain't talking
something
about none of the books. We ain't talking
I know.
about
I was about to say before we go, you
Before
can
we
at least
go,
tell us a little bit more about the
about the
book.
book.
So
Adapt and
I
Overcome.
have the book. It's called Adapt and Overcome. And for years, I didn't want to write a self-help motivational book. My bookshelf is covered with them, but I didn't want to write one because, quite frankly, I didn't think I was qualified to, right? So I just didn't think I was qualified to. And after I left Jackson State last month, excuse me, and I got off script and started lecturing them kids about life, to be quite honest with you. Because I just saw some things that I wasn't pleased with in the audience, right? So I'm the father of 3. My youngest child is 24, so I guess at the end of the day, I'm gonna always be a daddy. Some of those people that need to hear professor / author, they need to hear Daddy. So I had to check a few people in that audience. I don't care.
I can see you doing that.
Yeah, I don't care. I've been a professor at a white college for 10 years. I have seen the mannerisms, the intensity with these students, and I didn't like what I saw with some of our kids. So I got on a tangent and I started talking about what I talked about. And on the way home, I started thinking, some of these kids need guidance. Even though they're in college, they still need guidance. And the Holy Spirit woke me up. Mind you, I run a company where I'm ghostwriting people's novels. I'm writing scripts. I write. Last year alone, I wrote 18 movie scripts for other people. I'm writing my own. I'm writing movies right now. And I'm writing my first television show, which start filming this summer. But the Holy Spirit told me, stop everything you're doing and write this book. And I wrote a book that ended up, it's 30,000 words. It's 25 life lessons, and I wrote it in 3 weeks.
Okay. Well, sometimes it's like that when you
and it just poured out of me. But it is written in true Brian Smith fashion because I don't pull no punches. I mean, one of the chapters is called "The Fish You Piss On Today Might Become the Shark You Have to Swim Past Tomorrow." So I keep it 100. Unless one chapter is called "Unless You're the Lead Dog, the View Never Changes." So I'm writing the book in such a way that it will appeal to 18-year-olds to 21-year-olds in college, and quite frankly, people that are 40 and up who are looking for some type of guidance in their careers. So the book is meant to hit everyone. You can find the book on my website in paperback form right now. You can pre-order. It comes out May 1st, and you can pre-order it right now at www.authorbrianwsmith.com. It's on sale for 25% off if you pre-order it, and you will get your book a week before the actual release date. And it will be autographed by me. If you want to wait to May 1st, you can then go on Amazon and get both the paperback and the ebook. So that's what's happening there. What else I got going on? I am happy to announce that my first motion picture that I've co-written comes out. We haven't been told the exact date, but I know that it'll be out before June. So somewhere between now and June, it's starring Bill Duke. The actor Bill Duke will be in it. It's called Premonition.
Nice.
And where will it be in theaters, or is it going to be on Netflix or
streaming? We'll find out exactly when. And I've heard stuff like Peacock, Tubi, and maybe even Netflix. I'm not sure, so I don't want to put out anything erroneous, but I do know that they finished post-production. My son Jordan was the editor on the movie, and the movie comes out within the next 60 days. And I start, and this summer, I start co-writing another movie called The Wrong Family. We start that next week. And also this summer, I am writing my first sitcom television show, and it's about my son Jordan. It's called Junior's Back.
I knew that was coming sooner or later. I mean, I've been following your Facebook posts about you and your son for years.
We people would always tell me to write a book. I said, you know what? No, I'm thinking next level these days. So we're going to do the pilot episode. It's called Junior's Back, and it's basically, the book is about two 50-year-old grown folk who think they're empty nesters. Their 2 kids are grown, and then unannounced, the 27-year-old kid moves back home and cramps everybody's lifestyle. So it's called Junior's Back. It's loosely based on my son living here with us, and I think it's hilarious. Just think, Martin meets the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meets Good Times. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's going to be a real throwback to 90s comedy shows. Living single. It's going to be funny. It's going to be funny. And we start shooting the pilot episode. We'll start casting in about a month. And we'll start shooting the pilot episode this June. So got a lot going on. It doesn't stop me from writing books. My next Sleepy Carter book comes out on July 25th. Yeah, July 25th.
In other words, you're a busy, busy man.
Slow feet don't eat, baby.
You're right about that.
Yeah, Brian, I would love for us to keep going.
Yeah, no, I had to get that in though, because
I know you did, and because we were talking about a lot of different things. But you are still one of the hardest working people I know in this business, and I know you're going to continue to do great things, and can't wait to see you in another realm in the movie industry.
I appreciate that. Any author out there?
Brian, did you do that on purpose?
You hit the mute by mistake. But I have our next guest
that's
been waiting. And so
anyway, y'all be good. Talk to you soon. Thank you for having me on. Got much love for both of y'all.
Brian, I'll call you.
All right, call me,
posted.
All right.
Okay. Brian always has so much going on all the time.
He does.
But it was good to get an update.
It was, yeah.
Well, our next guest is Natasha Tarpley, and I appreciate her being so very patient, but she does children's books, and you all may have seen some of her books. I know the one that to me is the one I've seen the most is I Love My Hair. That's the one that I've seen circulating the most as far as the cover. But she has some other books that she's done as well. And she's joining us from Chicago, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right. Hello.
Okay.
Well, hello to
welcome to Black Authors Matter TV, and thank you for being patient. Did you see my message that I sent you in the chat? No.
Yes, I did. In the chat?
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure it's working. You know, sometimes you don't know what's working on the other end. So, tell us about, did you have a copy of your latest book with you? Or I Love My Hair, because I know
the latest book is Kiana Loves Her Family.
Okay.
And here is
yes, that one.
I Love My Hair.
That one, I think it got circulated everywhere.
Yeah, that book has been around for about 20 years.
Has it been that long?
More than 20 years. Yes, I'm dating myself, but yeah.
Wow. Well, but it's good. And it's probably still selling, I'm sure.
It is. It still has a wonderful life, which I'm very grateful for. So
now who published that book? I Love My Hair. Who is
I Love My Hair is published by Little Brown.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that the new series, Kiana Loves, the first book of which is Kiana Loves Her Family, which I just showed, kind of takes that character from I Love My Hair, whose name is also Kiana McGee, and brings her front and center for a new generation of readers. So she's not necessarily, she doesn't look like that same girl in the book, but it just takes her sort of spirit of creativity and imagination and puts it in this character who is the protagonist of this new series. And we're going to go off and have many adventures with her in the Kiana Love series.
That's great.
So it's beautiful.
Did Little Brown do the Kiana series too?
They did both, yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So the Kiana character really didn't age much, if at all. Is that
People always ask me that. I didn't even think about that when I was creating this series. It was really kind of taking that little girl, though she didn't age, but if you look at the cover, someone asked if the mother was the Kiana from the first book, and I guess
okay?
in your own imagination, you could kind of create that scenario, but I was really just kind of taking the spirit of that little girl from that book that, we don't get to know too much about her, because I Love My Hair is not a narrative story. It's more just like a series of images, and it's almost like a poem the way it reads. And so I really wanted to take that girl and explore her, that character, and explore her a little bit more extensively, so we get to see more of her family, more of her world. And because the publisher actually made the decision to use a new artist, because they wanted to kind of rebrand this series, she looks different. So it's not the same girl or not the same artist from the original.
But sometimes when you write children's books, your children, the children don't age necessarily. I have a series called Kids Biz that has 3 characters in it. And people ask me, I have 5 books in the series, and people will say, well, do they grow up in are they growing up in 4 and 5? No, they're the same age. They're going to be the same age.
Yeah.
I want them to be like on pause, just living with the adventure. So kids who read them, they're still applicable to the same age group.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but that's one thing about, now I Love My Hair. At the time you wrote that book, was the hair issue with hair, was that kind of sort of becoming front and center? It really has never faded, but the styles are different now, where then 20 years ago it was basically mostly braids, or maybe Afro puffs, maybe a bun on the top or something like that. But now people are wearing they're doing all different things with their hair too.
Yeah.
So that's changed over the 20-year period.
Yeah. Well, when I wrote that book, there was another book that had come out. And I don't know why I can't remember the name of it. The author is Cara Olivia Haran. It wasn't Bell Hooks's Happy to Be Nappy. It was, I'm blanking on the name of that book, but it came out before I Love My Hair. It was the same year, but that book actually had some controversy around it because it used the word nappy, and I think it was just called Nappy Hair.
Yeah, there was a nappy hair book. When we first opened our bookstore, I remember that was like in the early 2000s.
And that got a bit of controversy because I think there was
the word nappy.
a teacher who used that book in her classroom, and she was like a white teacher who had mostly Black kids, and there was this whole controversy over the use of the word nappy and the conversation around that. And so I Love My Hair came out that same year, and I think one of my intentions was not even to really, the book is about hair, yes, but hair is mostly a vehicle into talking about creativity and celebrating kind of the things that make us unique, and how we can connect with, really that spirit of self-love. And so that's what I was going for. And I wanted to do it in like a joyful way, in a whimsical way, because so much of our discussion sometimes around, even with our kids, has to do with issues. It's very heavy, and I just wanted something to be fun and joyful and light. And so that was kind of my intention behind I Love My Hair. But you're right. I think there's a lot has evolved from that. And there's so many hair books out now that feature African-American kids. But
and boys, because boys really weren't featured in the hair thing until maybe the last 10 years, maybe 8 years. but they're becoming featured, and they're wearing their hair all different styles too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the
And
braids. Some of them to me look. I don't know how I feel about all the different plaits on a boy or man. I'm still.
yeah.
I feel like the cornrows are okay for me, but it just, I don't know. That's not attractive for me, but it's not
I
my
think
age group.
it's,
You know what
yeah,
I
I
mean?
think
It's
it's
not the age
good that people are
group.
expressing themselves more
Yeah.
They
with
are.
with
They
their
are.
hair.
They
And
are.
even though every hairstyle may not be for me, I love seeing the creativity, and I
Right.
love seeing, I've seen some women who have rocked a hairstyle. It wouldn't be a hairstyle that I would wear only because I'm afraid
Right.
it won't look as cute on me, but just to watch other people and the way they're able to do so many things with their hair. And that's still fairly recent. I mean,
It is.
when
It
I
is.
was growing up,
Yeah.
we wouldn't dare go to school with our hair in an afro because everybody would make fun of us and call us nappy head and all these other things. And it wasn't until we got into adulthood where it started to become acceptable. And even now in this day and age, there's still, and I guess that's why I get so upset, because people are always, not to bring up the Chris Rock thing, but people always talked about how he made fun of a Black woman. But these same people who are saying that he did that have been making fun of Black women and their hair for years.
Yeah.
Well, just Black women in general.
Right.
I
And
had a
that's what I'm
conversation
saying.
with somebody online about, they were upset about using the B word. And I'm like, okay, all these rap songs
Yeah.
I've been
Right.
using them for years. Where have y'all been? And it's been
Right.
so objectionable to me that Black girls are like internalizing these negative terms about Black females, that it just hurts me to the core. So,
Absolutely agree.
all
Yeah.
of the, so where was the outrage 20 years ago? That's because that's really
Exactly.
when
And
it
and
started.
that's what I'm saying. Where was the outrage then when
Right.
so many women grew up with low self-esteem because of
Because of
being
that.
teased
Right.
by boys who were making fun of their hair, and girls who will tease the other girls because now, if I put this other girl down, then she's no longer my competition. So I'm just going to keep putting her down because the guys are putting her down, and we beat down people and gave them low self-esteem. Now all of a sudden we're evolved.
Right. Or we're offended. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? It's too, like, you all should have been offended 20 years ago, because
Right.
and I felt like, and this is somewhat off topic, but on topic, but off topic. But anyway, if all of the negative words that are used in these songs about Black women, and that's what they're talking about,
Yeah.
Black women could have shut it down early on if we wouldn't buy the music.
Right.
But because we bought the music, not us, but I'm saying Black females, they could have shut that down if they said, we're not going to support this because it's offensive. But that's part of low self-esteem. You end up embracing negative terms about yourself, and that's just, it's bad. And I like that your cover. I love my hair. You can tell she's happy. She's just
Yeah.
happy-go-lucky, and she doesn't have a care in the world. That's really the message that the imagery portrays. And so whoever did your illustration for that, they really did capture that.
Yeah. The artist's name is E.B. Lewis, and he's very well known. He's a excellent artist, illustrator. So he has many, many children's books out there as well. So yeah.
Okay. So did you he didn't do the illustration for, you said it was a different illustrator for your new book, the Kiana books. So did you have you been writing all along, or did you take a hiatus? How did that
No,
work?
I've been writing all along. So my first book came out in 1995. I'm really dating myself tonight, but and that book was an anthology of writings that I edited by Black college students from around the country. It's no longer in print, but it's a really interesting book to look back at now, because at that time, I put that book together because I went to a predominantly white university, and I got on campus and I just felt very lost, and I wanted to make connections with other Black students, not just on my campus, but around the country. And so I was able to create kind of a network of writers who today have become some of our more famous, writers, like Ta-Nehisi Coates is in that book. Others are in there, and it's just a snapshot of, a generation of Black writers. And then,
were
like
all the writers in the book, were they all attending PWIs?
No, some of them were at HBCUs.
Okay.
Yeah, we were from all over the country.
Okay.
And, all different universities.
Oh, so were you actually in school when you did that, or did you?
When I
work?
started sending out calls for submission, I was in school, and the book
Okay.
came out. I graduated class in 93, so the book came out in 95, a couple years after.
Okay.
And yeah, I've been writing ever since. I have about 10 books out that I've
Okay.
All
written.
right.
So
So
yeah.
wonderful. And was this book, because I'm trying to remember, was this, did you get any of your books nominated for Image Awards?
No,
So
that's
far?
been one of the disappointments of this career. That, I mean, the honor and the wonderful part of it is that my books have all had very widespread kind of grassroots readership, so that there's a lot of people who have very strong connections, directly readers to my books. But the mainstream, they have not, they've kind of overlooked my work in a lot of ways. My most recent book is, well, not most recent, the one that came out before Kiana, it's called The Me I Choose to Be.
Okay.
And that one is a collection. It's like a poem, but the illustrations are photographs by this Black couple called Creative Soul. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they do these really beautiful portraits of Black children. And that book did win a Coretta Scott King Award for the illustrations. So that's a little thorn in my side, that, the mainstream has not, acknowledged my work, but on the flip side, readers really have. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, does that couple, did they do the book called, is it called Crowns? Not
It's
Crown.
probably Glory.
Glory, that's it. Yes.
That's the same couple, yeah.
Okay, because they did there was a wall calendar too that they
have calendars
did.
out as well.
Okay, and with the different children and all kinds of costumes and just beautiful photography.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you could say that there's a theme in your books, or is there a theme in your books? Like there's a particular message that you are trying to get out to the public and to your readers regarding Black children, or the themes that you write about?
Well, I think the underlying message is really this sense of connecting with your own sense of self and power, and really celebrating who you are, and then taking that knowledge of who you are out into the world, as opposed to allowing the world to define who you are. Because I think so much of our experience ends up kind of combating what other people are always saying about us, which of course we have to deal with the world that we live in. We really do. But I feel like in order to really arm our kids with what really an ability to deal with that, as opposed to feeling like they always have to explain themselves, or they always have to, fight somebody, to really anchor them in their own power and in their own sense of self as they go out into the world. So I think that is really my message, for Black kids.
Beautiful.
So do you teach? Are you an educator?
I worked at a nonprofit for many years where I was working with young people on teaching them writing, and we put together a magazine that was published every year. But other than that, I don't. I do occasionally mentor younger writers, even adult writers who are emerging into their careers. But I made a decision when I graduated from college that I did not want to go into the academy. I did not want to go into teaching. And so my mom was like, well, what are you going to do? So I ended up going to law school.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
don't practice law either. So I don't know if that was the wisest choice, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to write full time and do something that I really love. So.
And that is fortunate, because there are a lot of people who wish they could be in that position to just write
Yeah.
full time.
Yep, absolutely.
We've had quite a few attorneys on the show that are written
Mhm.
books, children's books specific,
Yeah.
but all kinds.
Yeah,
I guess,
everyone in law school was some kind of frustrated artist of some sort. So they had all kinds of musicians and artists and writers. Everyone was trying to do their craft, but also trying to have something practical, I guess. So,
yeah, because I guess the legal profession, you don't really get to be creative that much, or do you?
I don't
This is
know. I
only the
mean,
way that you look
more
at it.
structured.
yeah, you can look at it a number of ways. I mean, I don't know, a lot of writers, I don't know if you're familiar with Derek Bell. He was a
Yes.
Harvard Law
Mm-hmm.
professor, and he used fiction a lot to create allegories and talk about the law in that way. And that really illustrated it and made it, you could connect with it on that level, like you were reading a story. So there were a lot of ways that people use the law and more creatively. And then I think that whole thing of the legal education, it really, I mean, if you want to really expand it out, it really is about storytelling and how you're going to tell this story in order to achieve whatever
In
goal
front
you're
of
trying to
a
achieve.
judge, or
Yeah, in front
a
of a judge,
client,
or
or
even in a
whatever.
contract,
Okay.
or negotiation.
Okay.
All of these things are stories. When you're writing a brief, when you're writing, all kinds of things, you're telling a story. So was that a reason for me to go and spend over $100,000 to law school? No, but this is
Well, you had to learn how to do it some way, right?
right. I had to learn how to do it some way. But I think it is a really good education for anybody, because it is something that trains your mind in that way and helps you to be a more persuasive, communicator. And it's also helped me just in general. I have an agent, a literary agent, but I'm able to look at my contracts and kind of know a little bit about what's going on, even though I don't negotiate my own contracts now. But so
It's good to be
I
able to
don't
read
regret that
legalese.
decision.
It's good
I'm
to be
sorry,
able
I
to read
didn't
the
hear you say.
legalese,
Yeah,
for what you're doing. And it's
yeah.
good. I thought I wanted to go to law school at one time, but I was just tired of school when I finished. I was tired. But I love one of my favorite types of shows to watch is a legal show. So
Mhm.
I'm very and I did work for lawyers years ago. So I know the law, I know the general part of the law. I know what my rights
Yeah,
are.
Mhm.
And so it's helpful to know the laws as they apply to you, but they can always, the thing about the law is it's based on precedent. So you can always set a different precedent
yeah,
by arguing a case. So,
yeah, absolutely.
so
And then
that's
you
it.
can always interpret things
Yes, yes,
differently.
you're
So
right.
yeah,
And
there's
that
a lot of
happens.
room in the
It
law.
is. It is.
Yeah.
It is. So, your next project is the Kiana series, and you're going to be producing a book every year, or do you have a timeline?
So far, there are 4 books that are signed up. So one will be coming out next year. And you're right, it'll be every year. And I also just sold a podcast, which is based on my middle grade novel called The Harlem Charade, which is a mystery that takes place in Harlem, in New York City, where
I
these
like the
kids have to
title.
figure out
Mhm.
an art-related mystery in order to save their community from, an evil politician who wants to gentrify everything, which they're way too late, but it's already happened. But there's going to be a new podcast for that book as well.
Well, wonderful, and congratulations on
Yes.
everything. And show us a cover of your book one more time, your new one. And I Love My Head, just to give people a refresher about
Okay, well, this is the new one, and
Kiana
then
Loves
this
the
is
Family.
the
I
original.
love the happy look on her face. I mean,
Yeah,
that just
I
makes
love
me
that little
smile.
girl.
So happy.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
well, thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. We really
Well,
enjoyed
thank you
hearing
for
about
having
what you're
me.
doing, and continued success with your books and your writing and all everything you're doing.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
You have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
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 So
Okay.
while we're bringing on the last person, do you want to know who won?
Okay, I'm gonna guess Mary and Stephanie.
Okay, let's see. Well, here's the thing. 3
Okay.
people answered around the same time.
Okay, which one? Or which one?
Okay, so Stephanie said editorial assistant at Wagner Books. And then Lydia said book publishing, and Tony Benita said Wagner Books. So all 3 of them are right, and they all came in an hour ago. So I can't really tell who came first, but if I'm looking at the order of the chats, then it would be Stephanie.
Okay, and what we'll do, we'll go back and look after the show.
Yeah.
And right now we'll say Stephanie, but we'll go back and look after the show to confirm.
Right.
And the answer for this one, I saw it, but I didn't see who did it.
Yeah, that was Stephanie, Cornell University.
Okay, so that was Stephanie as well. So we will confirm the other one, the other Black girl, to see who answered first before we ship the book out.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to bring on our final guest, and it is Nikki High, and she recently opened a bookstore in Pasadena, California. So she's joining us from California. Hopefully she didn't get buried in any of the snowstorms that they had out there. And her bookstore is called Octavia's Bookshelf, and she named it after Octavia Butler, the well-known science fiction author who had wonderful work. If you haven't read anything by Octavia Butler, you need to go out and read. And you can probably start with Kindred. They did that show on Hulu based on Kindred. So that might be a good start. But I read at least 4 or 5 of her books, and they were all good. There wasn't a bad one in the bunch. So anyway, Nikki, hi, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
So your bookstore opened, what was the date, the exact date that it opened?
We opened February 18th, so just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Oh, wow, you're brand new.
Yeah,
Brand new.
All right. Now, I have to ask, what made you have the audacity to open up a bookstore in this post-COVID era?
I just believed that this space was important.
Yes.
In the city of Pasadena, there are no independent bookstores that prioritizes Black writers, Indigenous writers, people of color writers. And it's a space I always longed for in this neighborhood. And I knew the time was right.
Well, you know, Pasadena is also where they do the Image Awards.
Yeah.
I was in Pasadena twice at the Image Awards, and it's been a few years ago, but that's why I know that. And it's really beautiful. It's like in a valley where I stayed at, which I think it was Pasadena where I stayed or close to it. It's like in a valley, and the mountains are all around, and you can look like in the distance and see snow on the tops of the mountains, even though it was It was a warm day. It was even though it was February, but it was warm because that's the temperature in Southern California, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was very warm, but it was very nice. Low humidity.
Yes, very low humidity.
Yeah. We have tons of humidity in Houston. That's why whenever I go somewhere where the humidity is low, I can immediately feel it.
Well,
But
I
it's
kind
very
of
scenic.
feel that bookstores are, especially Black bookstores, they're starting to make a comeback, because it seems like since 2020, there have been a lot of bookstores, new bookstores that have been coming up, and it's offered an amazing opportunity for so many independent Black authors who have been having trouble getting into the bigger bookstores because the smaller bookstores were kind of disappearing on us. So for
Yeah.
them to come back, it's offered an amazing opportunity for them to get out there again.
You're so right. And what I've enjoyed most about this journey is meeting authors who are self-published or, you know, in the process of writing their book and talking about getting their books in the bookstore. Like, you know, I understand how difficult it is for Black writers to get published in the first place.
Yes.
But once they do that, then you have to just sit in a sea of Amazon books, or, you know, if it's not February, maybe you don't really get, you know, a lot of time on the front shelf, right, to advertise your book. And I just, you know, that has always bothered me since I was a little girl. It's bothered me that I can't walk into a bookstore and easily find books by people who look like me. And so, yeah, that's been a really amazing part of this journey, is just meeting other Black authors and putting their books on the shelves and getting ready to, like, you know, write a little tag that says, hey, you know, this person is from Pasadena, or, you know, this person, this is their debut novel and they're self-publishing. You can come and can get it here. And, you know, I have a really small store. And so, like, everything is highlighted. Like, if your book is in here, you know, chances are you're going to find it the moment you walk in. We're just 621 square feet. So it's a true honor for me to be able to connect with Black authors in that way.
Well, I snuck over to your Instagram page and you already have almost 9,000 followers.
Yeah,
so for a bookstore that's only been around for a couple of weeks, and to have grown that quickly on your social media presence, what have you been doing, young lady?
Well, I do have a background in marketing in my former life. So those skills have translated into this new venture. But I really do think it's like, you know, I've heard from Black people all the way in Australia who's like, I saw this TikTok and I'm so excited. And, you know, like, the word is just spreading. And I think it's such a refreshing story, right? Because I don't know, things coming out of the pandemic, post-pandemic, you know, the news isn't always great. And I think people have been longing for a Black woman-owned bookstore that prioritizes Black authors. And I'm just really excited about it, that I get to do this. I wake up every morning and I just pinch myself because I can't believe I get to do this. And the people that have been coming to shop in my store I've already had repeat customers. Like, you know, somebody says, oh, I was in here last week and I got this book, and, you know, now I'm ready for my next book. And so it's just been an incredible ride for me. But I think that my story just resonated with a lot of people because we're looking for new connections and new spaces to be able to, you know, house our stories.
Yes.
So, you know, I prior to this, I only had about 1,000 Instagram followers, but after I started spreading the word, then, you know, it got a lot higher.
That's
so
wonderful.
How did you go? How long did it take you to go from the 1,000 to the, how many did you say it was, Rhonda?
It's over 8,600 followers right now.
Okay, so how long
I'm
did
gonna
it take you
tell
to
you,
go from the one
almost
to the-
overnight. It was literally
Oh.
almost overnight. Like I
Wow.
wrote a tweet on when was it? On New Year's Eve. And usually, like, you know, I'll just say something that I think is profound, and probably not a lot of people feel that way, but I just responded to a tweet saying that I was really proud of myself for quitting my job and opening a bookstore. And then overnight, it just, you know, it went viral. I've never had that happen before. I've never had a viral tweet, but from then I was just like, wow, okay, so people really do want to see this space open. And so I just tried to carry on that momentum and keep people posted on, you know, like, hey, I'm looking for a space. I found a space. I just got my first sign. You know, I would post with me painting and putting up bookshelves, and a lot of people just started to follow that story, and now here we are. So.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations. And I mean, I guess it just goes to show that you always have to be ready, because you never know what that one social media post is going to be that's going to take off. And sometimes it's the least the least one you expect. You might spend hours putting together the perfect TikTok.
Yeah.
And it goes nowhere. And then that one post you just throw out there is the one that blows up.
Yep, that's pretty much how it happened too. So, you know, I think I'd like to think though that, you know, there was some divine interactions happening. My first friend, my best friend, my favorite person, was my grandmother, and she was my biggest cheerleader, and she passed away unexpectedly May of last year.
Okay.
So she didn't get to see this, and I've been talking to her about it for a long time. She didn't get to see it happen, but I know she's up there doing something.
Oh, she's doing the Cabbage Patch, because she said my baby is doing it.
And God is like, oh, what did I bring her up here for?
So how did you get the idea when did the idea of saying, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to open the bookstore. When did you get that idea? And then how long? Well, we know you opened last month, a couple of weeks ago. So when did it first hit you, as far as actually taking action? Because, you know, we can have ideas that germinate, but they don't come out into action. Sometimes it might take a minute or years before that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a dream of mine. I was a very early reader, and I had kind of a traumatic childhood, and so reading offered me a way to escape quickly. So I depended on books a lot. During the pandemic, I think when we were all just at home, like thinking about, you know, this life and what we would do if we got out of this pandemic alive, or at least I was. And so it just, you know, wasn't hard to come up with the answer. It was like, I want to be in a bookstore. Because, you know, like when the lockdown first happened, there was a level of fear, but for somebody like me who just prefers to be at home reading, I was like, well, I've been training for this my whole life. Like I could just read all day and night. But then I just, you know, started thinking about the bookstore. I started building out financial models. I started talking to my husband, like, hey, I want to quit my job and open a bookstore. And he was like, wait, what? And so then I started, you know, just getting on the phone, calling independent bookstores, asking them if they would take my calls, talk to me about, you know, the business. And then I started reading books about opening bookstores. And so I was, you know, I was sort of like ready to go. I was understanding how this worked. I just hadn't taken the leap to quit my job. And then last year, two things happened. One is my grandmother passed away, as I just mentioned. And at her funeral, somebody was saying something like, life isn't short, it's wasted. And they made the comment to say that my grandmother didn't waste time with people she didn't like. She didn't waste time withholding love from people that she cares about, like, so when he said it that way, I was like, wow, that's a really profound statement for me. And so then I just started like turning those wheels more and more. And excuse me, in August of last year, I had the pleasure of spending some time in South Africa and Swaziland. And I stayed with a collective of women who were like weavers and batik printers. And they were like together, working, creating, having tea, taking care of each other's kids, laughing, talking. I was just so inspired by them. And I was like, I'm going to go and create that in my own way when I get home. So about a week after I got home, I quit my job. And I didn't have a space. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. I just quit. And
wow. So this was really a super leap of faith for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, sometimes you have to do it like that.
Yeah.
Do it. And because if you overthink, you end up overthinking your way out of something.
Well, and I think I had done that before, like before the pandemic. There were times when I was like, I could do it. I know I can make this big bookstore happen. And then I would overthink myself out of it. Like, well, no, I better wait for that one more bonus. I better wait until, this happens or that happens. But like, things won't ever be perfect. It won't be the right time to do anything. And so I really just had to lead with that inspiration from those women I spent time with in South Africa, as well as, sort of my grandmother's memory. And I mean, my grandmother told me I could do anything, and she legitimately believed it. And I believed that she believed it. So those are I think the two things in 2022 that just propelled me off my seat. And I had to walk away from the job because it was like one of those good jobs, right? Like, my mom was like, are you crazy? You've been there for 15 years, they pay you good. And I really liked my job, but I just knew I would be happier doing something like this. So here I am.
Well, you mentioned something that I wish many, many more children had, and that is someone telling them they can do anything, someone in their lives that they respect and that they're around often that can tell them that, because that's the difference for a lot of people between success and failure, or even trying.
Yeah, it's so true. And the key is like, you have to believe that person believes it, right? Like my grandmother she was like, of course, she said, you are my descendant. Your mother was just a vessel for you to come here. And so, yeah, I mean, she spoiled me rotten, and I believed everything she told me. So I think that's a large reason why I'm here right now.
Amen. Amen. And that absolutely is true.
So what made you name it Octavia's Bookshelf? Were you going to ask that, Ron?
Well, I was going to ask something else, but I like that question too. So I'll ask my question next.
Okay. So I read Kindred when I was about 16. Someone, I don't know who, just recommended that I read it. And it was the first time I had read any sort of like time travel or science fiction type book that had Black people in it. Prior to that, when I would read sci-fi, there weren't many Black authors in my, like, that I knew of. And it used to bother me because I'm like, if a story took place 500 years in the future, and then I'm like, there's no people of color or Black people anywhere, like what happened to us? And so somebody was like, oh, you should read Octavia Butler. And I just, fell in love with Kindred, the story. And then I just started trying to get my hands on anything else I could of hers. Also, she was born and raised in Pasadena, and she was living in my neighborhood, or rather I was living in her neighborhood because she was there first. I never met her myself, but I know for sure we had to be on the same bus. We had to have been in the same store at the same time. But I just fell in love with her. Like she was a larger than life woman. Like she was 6 feet tall, Black woman writing about race and division and
Was she really that
sexuality.
tall?
Mhm. Yeah,
She
she was.
I didn't know that. I've never
I
met
didn't
her
either.
in person.
Yeah. And for her to be brave enough to just be like, you know what, this is who I am, and these
Yeah,
are the
I'm gonna
stories
write
that,
these stories and
yeah,
just the heck with it.
yeah.
Because
So
her work is different
it
than,
is, it
you know,
is.
and she was like ahead of her time. Now there are a lot of fantasy sci-fi Black authors, you know, really coming forward. But she was pretty much the only one
She was
20
the
years
only one
ago.
I knew of. And even like when I read N.K. Jemisin, I can see how she was influenced by Octavia Butler. Like I can see Octavia Butler's influence in a lot of Black sci-fi and fantasy writers. And you're right, she was just ahead of her time. And so I always had it in my mind. I'm like, if I am fortunate enough to pull this off, I want to honor our hometown legend, because she didn't get her flowers the way that she should have
Right.
before her passing. And so this is just one way, small way for me to honor her and what she meant for my life, and especially opening my eyes to just different genres of books that I hadn't been made aware of in the past.
Because I think she died suddenly, or I
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
about it. I mean,
If I remember correctly, that was correct.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like all of a sudden, Octavia's gone. And then there wasn't anything leading up to it, or there wasn't,
No, it was
there
like
no
a
announcement
fall.
of an illness or anything or anything.
No,
It was just she died,
yeah, they said it was a fall, but then they think that what preceded the fall was potentially it had to do with like her hypertension, and some other
or a stroke or an
health
aneurysm or
issues. But
something.
yeah, it was just sudden. And I talked to a woman who she said that Octavia Butler was coming back to Pasadena to do a talk for her church, and 2 days before they got the call that she passed. So it was very sudden.
Oh boy. Now I read Kendrick, I read Fledgling. Was that her last book? I know it was a later book.
Yeah, it was a later book. Hang on, I'm just gonna fix my cord here.
And I read I think it was Seed.
I want to say it was Fledgling, but I'm gonna check too.
Her last book. I think it's Wild Seed, or I think I read 4 of her books, because that whole Seed, that was a series.
Yeah.
But I think I only read 2 of them. But that's something that I might go back and read.
Parables series? Did you read Parable of the
Parable
Sower?
of the Sower? Seems like I did. I'm almost positive I read the Parable of the Sower. It's been some years though,
but it's a really,
I know was the last one that I read.
Yeah, Fledgling, and that was a little different because it was like a vampire.
Yeah, vampire.
Yeah.
I think Fledgling it came out in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And she passed in 2006.
Right. Because it kind of reminded me of, the Fledgling book, Tanana Reeve Dude has a series, 2 books that are back to back, that it's not vampires, but it's The Living Blood, and what was the other, oh no, the first one was My Soul to Keep, and then the sequel was The Living Blood, but it wasn't about vampires. It was about like an ancient sect of people who could live like forever, like live hundreds of years. So that was a really good series too.
Yeah.
Well, it was a 2-part series, but it was really good. So so when people come in your store, what do they ask for? What's hot now with people coming into your store?
Well, Octavia Butler is hot now.
Okay.
I can imagine she'll always be hot in your store, because since you named the store after her.
Yeah. Excuse me. So for opening day, I ordered 50 copies of every book she wrote, and I sold out in 4 hours. I've been
Wow.
open
Wow.
2 weeks and 2 days, and I've already reordered the same order 4 times. And I'm currently waiting on a new order.
That's
So are
So
you ordering from the publisher or distributor?
I'm ordering through Ingram.
Okay.
Oh, well, and I did use the publisher for some, like the newest, like the hardback for Kendrick, because a lot of people want them in hardback now.
Okay, and plus because of the Hulu, they probably have a TV tie-in or movie
Yeah.
tie-in.
Yeah.
They re-release it because of that Hulu
They
series?
did, and they have like, an updated cover and it says gift edition, like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's really hot. She's really hot, which makes me so happy because there's so many people who have never heard of her.
Right.
And they're like, all right, well, what's all the buzz about? And so I am delighted to be able to say, all right, come on, let me get you this book. But graphic novels are really big with sort of the middle school kids that have been coming in. Sci-fi and fantasy still really hot. Actually, I just finished reading one called The Deep by Rivers Solomon. And it's like this group of people who they live in the sea, and they're descendants of pregnant enslaved women who were thrown overboard from the slave ships. And they've all forgotten their past because it's too painful to remember, except for this one underwater person, and she comes to the surface. Anyway, I don't want to give it all away, but it's a really good book, and a lot of people have been asking about it. It's called The Deep by Rivers Solomon.
Okay, I'll write that down. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It does sound interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
And then like the newest stuff, like Black Candle Women just came out on the 28th, and I've sold through like a whole dozen books already. So just mostly like the newest novels that have not the newest fiction novels coming out. For nonfiction, it's a bunch of 1619, The New Jim Crow, The Sum of Us. Those are really popular titles right now as well.
Yeah, The New Jim Crow is making, well, I was going to say it's making a resurgence, but I don't know if it ever really, because a lot of colleges are using it. And it's been out for 15 years, I want to say.
Yep.
Okay, so, but it never really died down as far as the demand.
Yeah, I think the New Jim Crow cast, which is
okay, the book cast by Wilkinson Isabel.
That's been really hot. Yeah, so it's a pretty nice cross section. Oh, Bell Hooks, I can't keep her on the shelves, any of her books.
Well, she's a great writer, so I can imagine that.
Yeah, people are just like coming in specifically for her. So I have like, I'm not done yet, but I'm sort of building my own canon, which is just one bookshelf of like, people who inspired me, like James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, Toni Morrison, Toni K. Bambara, Maya Angelou, like, Zora Neale Hurston, all those. So that section has been pretty popular as well, but particularly Bell Hooks. Like every time I put her on the shelves, like it's gone by the end of the day.
That's awesome.
Really great.
Well, I was just going to ask what was next for you.
Okay.
What do you have planned?
Well, I want to get operationally stable right now.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Because I'm doing great business, but I want to do I always challenge myself to do better, particularly with customer service. Like that's at the forefront of what I do. And so, not having books on the shelves bothers me more than I think it bothers my customers, but I want to get to the point where I can sort of foresee that before it happens. And so I'm, using a analytics company right now to sort of help me with the ordering. Like I need more of this, but less of that. And so once I get my sea legs, I would love to do some meet the author events, book signings, book club, creative writing workshops.
Oh, that would be great.
And then I want to get out to the schools, the local schools here, to not only, promote literacy, but to promote that love of reading. Because for me, like, I just like a little girl from the projects, but reading helped me imagine a world way bigger than what I had. And because of that, I've traveled the world. I've met, really amazing people. I've had these great experiences that I wasn't exposed to it, and I couldn't have dreamt it if I didn't have a book that kind of helped map it out for me, or, allow me to ask questions and research. When I would read a book, if the author, mentioned a place that I was unfamiliar with, well, then I want to learn about Swaziland. That's how I got to Swaziland last year. I read a book like 20 years ago, and I'm like, I've never heard of that before. And so I've been researching it for all this time, and I finally made my way out there. So I think that's probably what's next. But for right now, I'm just standing in so much gratitude and just trying to make this store a really great experience for people.
Well, we're at the end of our show and the end of this segment all at the same time, but we want people to support Nikki High and her new bookstore in Pasadena, California called Octavia's Bookshelf.
And her Instagram as well as her website are in the chat.
Octavia's Bookshelf, they're all how you can identify. So you have a great evening, Nikki, and I'm sure you'll have an amazing success with your store.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the both of you. This has been a real pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, and you have a great night and much success to you.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, that's our show for this week. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.